So I am going to present my vision, and that part will be pretty short because I talked about it yesterday. But just something that occurred to me in terms of my name, which is Moira, and something clicked with me yesterday when Father Colin was talking about his, to him, unusual name, which to me is not at all unusual. It's an Irish name. It means Columba, one of the most important saints, one of the evangelizers, actually evangelized Scotland when he came to Iona. And so my name too presents a little bit of a problem because even in Serra, I sometimes hear Moira, Moira, Mariah, Moira, and then Father Colin said yesterday that there was a Greek word St. Paul's use of, and maybe you can correct me, Cardinal Collins, because my Latin's okay, but my Greek is not. Moria, and that was Greek for moron. Okay, so I know he didn't think about it, but it just registered. And then it took me back a few years to when I was being baptized. And in those days, because it was quite a long time ago, the godparents didn't go to the parents didn't go to the church. You went with your godparents, so the godparents were there. And the priest who baptized me said to my godparent, Moira is not a Christian name. My birthday happens to be the 9th of September, and the 8th of September is Our Lady's birthday. So he said, so we'll put in Mary. But Moira means Mary. So now I'm Mary Mary. And my husband said that priest knew what he was saying, because that's what he calls me, Mary Mary, quite the dream. So thank you, Matt. Anyway, you know, I was really, really impressed. I've been impressed by all the homilies, and I was really impressed by Cardinal Collins again tonight. And I feel truly honoured to have Cardinal Collins as our Serra International Episcopal Advisor, and also our Canadian Episcopal Advisor, although I think yesterday we were called our Ecumenical Advisor, but that was okay, because you are that too. And Cardinal Collins was also the chair of my bioethics, not my bioethics issue, the Canadian Catholic Bioethics Institute, for about 13 years. So he was my boss, in other words. And he was such a steady hand in all those areas, which are dealing with areas that are really pretty problematic in the church, and perhaps especially in Canada at the minute too. So I owe him a great debt in terms of really good guidance in a professional sense, and also for his guidance here in Serra. So we know from our Serra prayer even, and I think this links a little bit with what we were saying tonight, Cardinal Collins, that our Lord wants us to be converted and live in that order in the prayer. Not live and be converted, but be converted and live. That's what we say. And I think that's because in Serra, our lives take another turn, which just means conversion, when we consider the mission that we're on, to promote vocations to the priesthood and religious life, and to develop our own spirituality. So it's multi-purpose, and our structure takes account of that. Before the energizing Eucharistic Congress in the United States, which looked as if it was an absolutely fantastic occasion, highly spiritual, and I'm sure will produce many benefits, Bishop Cousins said in an interview, we expect miracles. We want to be set on fire. Truly inspiring words. And he added, our goal is to help the Church in the United States make the transformation that Pope Francis has called for, the missionary transformation, so that we can become the missionaries we're called to be. And it just seems to me that that goes way beyond the United States to everything, but it also fits very well our Serra mission, the missionary transformation, so that we can become the missionaries we're called to be. And as Cardinal Collins said, mission means being sent, realizing why we're being sent. We may not be knocking on doors from Serra, but there is a going out and a going forth implication. Serra isn't only about club meetings and personal spiritual nourishment. Those factors are supposed to arm us to go beyond, to go out to the world, even if it's just our own local world. All worlds are important. The new strategic plan has that in mind. Granted, it's only as yet at the stage of being dealt with by the councils before going on to their district governors and to their clubs. And just to repeat very briefly, what is the mission and vision? The vision 2035, to become recognised as a worldwide resource for supporting religious vocations. It's a very worthwhile vision. And the overarching goal, which we had in fact been doing before, but this is almost reinforcing, foster a culture of vocations to the ministerial priesthood among parishes, schools, and in fact our families. I won't talk about the priorities, etc. We talked about that. It is coming to you. But that strategic plan is really setting my vision. It's not just mine, of course, it's the whole board's. Our vision going forward, not just this year, but in the years to come as well. And we will have the privilege of working on, well, not the first year, that was Kurt, but in the second year, in fact, of developing the mission. And something else that Father Colm said yesterday really struck me when he talked about Peter didn't sell the boat, you know. And Matt and I were talking later about, oh, well, you know, maybe he left it to his children. We know he had a mother-in-law, or maybe, we don't know, in other words. But it dawned on me that a vote is something that's really important, and sometimes we need a vote. And it's such a good metaphor, if you like, for group work. And I don't know if you saw the movie that was called The Boys in the Boat. About, and if you haven't, it's a 2023 movie, and it's about a rowing club in a university in Washington, D.C., who has an annual boat race with some club in California. The Washington team don't have much money, the California university is very wealthy, etc. So we have the sort of usual underdog type situation. So there was a scene in that part where the young fellow who's really had a hard scrabble, background, is working really hard because he really enjoys the rowing, but he's seeing this as a way to help himself. And after a while, he gets really tired out and really frustrated, and eventually the coach says to him, buckle up or you're out. And the coach just says to him something like, it's not about you, it's about the boat. And you can just see the young fellow going away and having the implications of that actually sink in to him. And so I think the whole Peter story is really kind of interesting. This is very scriptural at heart, because Jesus himself uses a boat several times to teach the apostles and then the people. And interestingly enough, at least to me, he talks about the parable of the sower and the seed from a boat, which is a kind of mixed metaphor, if that's the correct term. He even says at the end, from the boat, that some seed fell on rich soil and produced abundant fruit. Those who have ears, let them hear. Well, Serrans have big ears, and big hearts, and a big missionary spirit. Somebody pointed out to me once that Jesus never sailed the boat himself. Adam and Joni just mentioned something to me tonight about, you're at the helm now. And I thought, oh heavens, Betsy, there's that. But Jesus never took the helm. The apostles sailed the boat. They were the ones who panicked. Jesus was the one who corrected the storm. But it was a group effort. Even at that level, I think there's a big moral in there for any organization when we reflect on it. I just want to talk a little bit about myself, not so much about myself, but my little journey in Serra. So, and this is perhaps for new Serrans rather than seasoned Serrans who know a good bit about how Serra sometimes works. So Matt and I were invited 13 years ago, I think, to a meeting with several people to listen to a talk about a group called Serra. So the person who asked the question yesterday about non-recognition of the name Serra really resonates with me because I'm aware of how many people don't know, and all I can say was I'd heard the name but I didn't know too much about it. Nonetheless, I walked out of the meeting that night as president of about to be newly formed called the Serra Club of Halton, and the president is here with me tonight, so I say to her, my president's here tonight, so I have to watch what I say. And so a few years later, I was approached by the district governor to see if I would accept or contemplate the offer of being president of the Serra Council of Canada. And I said, what? I'm not even on the board. It's pretty clear that we're between a rock and a hard place at that particular junction, you know. And I somewhat reluctantly agreed, though Matt will laugh at that, after thinking and praying about it. Because, you know, it just seemed to me, well, if there's enough support and people will help me, it's not about me, it's about the Lord. Although I wasn't using that particular wording, but the same idea, if you like. And I spoke to Mario Viscardi, who's obviously been president of Serra International. He was just about to become president at that point. And to two former presidents, Canadian, the ones I call the wise men, John Gennaro and George Damiani, many of you will know them, they're all from Toronto, and they promised support when needed. So I said yes, and I jumped a few steps in the usual process, is the short answer to that. But it worked out. And then, and I think perhaps something to do with Mario, I was asked to be in the nominating committee and was guided in that under Tim O'Neill. And then again with Ruben Gallegos, and then with Mike Bragg as chair of the Long Range Planning Committee, and then with Greg Schweitz as VP for Programs, and lastly with Kurt as President-elect. Learning all the time from them, and still doing so. Working with experienced Serrans, many former presidents, on long-range planning was very broadening, as is working with vice presidents such as Margot and her amazing work in membership. She's a true missionary out there in the world, along with Emmanuel and his communications and his committee's new Connects newsletter, telling all our stories from a global perspective. And then there's Bob Rudman and this wonderful Serra Coin project, which is making so much impact, and Tony Maggioni and his dedicated work on programs. I became aware of the time and effort that's needed and sheer dedication given by people like Bob Campney, our treasurer, and Colonel John Halloran, our secretary, and the reports given by the Serra Foundation. And also, it's also important to the work, not just of the board, but to Serra International, to the whole organization. And of course, along with John Liston as Executive Director for his hard work and dedication to Serra, and his team of Barbara and Joe, they're on the front line of calls and requests from Serrans, and who provide, certainly as far as I've ever experienced it, a very gracious and cheerful response to our members. And so I welcome all the new board members who will be contributing to this vision, who will be helping develop the long-term plan, the long-term strategic plan. And the two new vice presidents, Anne Larkins and Maureen Batusti, and our secretary, new secretary, Richard Arians. And I'm looking forward to working with those people going forward, while thanking profoundly those who are leaving. We are a volunteer organization, and it's our missionary spirit that impels all of the above named and all of us here to give of ourselves, our time, and our talents for the good of Serra. And again, I was very taken with Father Collins' four-part description yesterday of how we develop. He wasn't just talking about seminarians, he was talking about all of us. When he talked about our being taken, being blessed, being broken, and being given back out in service to the world. So I'm really looking forward to hearing everybody's developments of this new approach through the plan, all the visions that will be made reality as we work through all these points and tasks and make them into something that actually works, something that has an effect in the world in terms of promoting vocations. And I think that the momentum that that may generate will achieve some of the vision, but I think will also help keep us all sort of on the same track as we move forward. Because any plan, it's not just a plan, it is, again, Cardinal Collins, all about action. So I really look forward to hearing from the councils, the board looks forward to hearing from the councils about how they are moving forward in their areas, and also to reading their reports, which I think is a necessary part of any strategy, much as most of us find it difficult and time-consuming to write reports, or a video, or whatever form the information actually takes. And I hope this board hears from the national councils via the vice presidents and their own representatives to the board about what is being accomplished, so that we're kept up to date and taking the steps necessary for us and for the councils to actually achieve these Serra's common goals. So I see this, and I hope it will be an exciting but challenging time. And yes, it will take some effort, but it's a mission we signed up for, and it's a noble one. The next year and the next few years will give us an opportunity to rethink, review, and recommit to the mission of Serra, and every organisation has to do that every so often. I have to mention that I think it's an amazing coincidence that I'm the president, and I was speaking to Sue Chersky just earlier, and I think, for Sue, I'm not sure where you are right now. Yeah, please stand up. And Sue, as you know, was the first woman president of Serra International. And there's been a little bit of a gap, shall we say, but here we are. And so, you know, I will be looking to Sue as well as all the other former presidents for their wisdom, guidance, and perhaps participation, depending on what we're actually dealing with. And then, of course, we have Judy Schumacher as the president of the foundation, and Anne Roth as president of USAC, the three of us all at the same time. Now, I know the Romans used to talk about a triumvirate, but again, here's my Latin verb means man, right? So the three of us cannot be a triumvirate, so we'll have to be a trifeminate or something like that. And I just think it's one of those coincidences that I really actually appreciate, and I'm really looking forward, of course, to working with both of them as well. It's a historic first, I believe, in our organizations, and so that's something I thank God for. So overall, simply, I just feel that all clubs should have a voice if we want everybody to have a sense of belonging in our organization, as well as having a sense of purpose that nearly everybody is carrying out so well anyway. And I do feel strongly that an international board is not just an instrument for telling other layers of the organization what we should be doing. Mission needs vision, and vision needs to be shared. It's really all about communications, and that's another area that I think is already being strengthened, and I look forward to strengthening it even more. We don't want our Serra decisions to be aimless decisions, but say, here are the goals, let's discuss them, let's decide how we will order them, let's discuss how we will achieve them, perhaps even decide to let some of them go if they're not working, because that every so often happens. And always, always, we have to evaluate them. All in the name of moving forward. As I said yesterday, it's not just about a plan in the abstract. The plan is meant to help us. It's not, if you like, the other way around. It's not just to formulate something for the sake of formulation, but so that it will actually have some effect when we go out. It's all about moving forward, because that's the mission we signed up for. Siempre adelante. So we know our mission has value. We know our goals have value. But do we value our mission? Do we value our goals? Well, I believe we do. So in another language, andiamo, or maybe Jane, all in, you know, for the good of Serra, every day.
Dr. McQueen needs one more trophy and award for that. I noticed there's a relic of Cindy and Serra sitting right here. And this relic is usually carried by the president. So now's the perfect time for Kurt to make that handoff for Dr. McQueen to receive the relic of our patron saint and